Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Cambridge English Elite. Today I've come up with another video on narrative writing. We are going to talk about the improving expression in narrative writing, and one of the ways to improve your expression is through language devices. Whether you are in IGCSE appearing in 0500 first language English, whether you are appearing in O levels English 1123, we all need to know the language devices, for example, metaphor, similes, alliterations, and there are many others which we can easily incorporate into our essays in order to score higher marks. So let's get started. We plan our story in a way that we include such language devices in our writing apart from the structure devices. Structure devices, I told you yesterday, the structure devices are mainly they comprise of, the beginning, the way you have started your story, the way you ended, and all other paragraphing that you have done, the climax that you included, the introduction describing the setting, the characters, as well as foreshadow, including flashback, including, maybe a different kind of ending, maybe a cliffhanger, right? Going for a cyclical plot. These are all structural devices, right? And sentences, the length of sentences, I didn't tell this yesterday, length of sentences, longer sentences and shorter sentences, they are also part of structure of the narrative. Remember, sometimes we are using longer sentences. And when we use, when we are using longer sentences, then we are actually slowing down the pace of the narrative. पेस क्या होता है बेटा? पेस होता है जिस स्पीड से हमारा नैरेटिव मूव फॉरवर्ड करता है। ठीक है, तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं कि वेन एवर वी यूज लॉन्गर सेंटेंसेस, वहां पे हमारी स्टोरी स्लो डाउन हो जाती है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, फ्लैशबैक जब यूज करते हैं तो फ्लैशबैक वी गो बैक इनटू द पास्ट एंड वी टेल व्हाट हैपेंड इन द पास्ट। वहां पे हम क्या करते हैं? वी यूज लॉन्गर सेंटेंसेस बिकॉज दैट इज अ स्लोअर पेस। बट वेन वी कम टू द क्लाइमैक्स ऑफ द स्टोरी, ओवर देयर हम स्विच कर जाते हैं इनटू शॉर्टर एंड सिंपलर सेंटेंसेस। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ठीक है, द बर्गलर, द इंट्रूडर इज राइट इन फ्रंट ऑफ मी एंड दैट इज द क्लाइमैक्स ऑफ द स्टोरी। सो व्हाट वुड आई डू? I would use expressions and shorter sentences like my heart palpitated, full stop. I couldn't believe what I just saw, full stop. Was it a dream or was it true? Was it reality? Question mark. Right? The intruder was right in front of me, dash, right there, exclamation mark. So these shorter sentences, they are quickening the pace of the story. Plus they are also, adding drama and tension to my plot. So beta, whenever you are changing the length of sentences, smaller, shorter sentences, longer sentences, a shorter paragraph, a longer paragraph, and single line paragraphs as well. There are single sentence paragraphs, and I tell my students to use them either in between first and second para or the last two paragraphs. You can also end on a single line. For example, my story has ended, and at the end of the story, I want to end it in a cliffhanger sort. So what I do, the last line would be like, was it still alive? Or was it a dream? Question mark. This is my last sentence. I would write it as if I've written a separate paragraph. So beta, longer, shorter sentences, longer, shorter paragraphs, single line paragraph, single sentence paragraph, as well as all the other devices, the parts of narrative, they are all included in structure. Language devices over here, as you can see, a simile. What is a simile? Simile is when you are comparing two nouns with each other. For example, his skin was as smooth as a silky sea on a calm day. Similes do not copy from internet. Be as creative as you can. Make your own similes. For example, now I've chosen a noun that is skin. Now I'm going to think about the quality of this noun. For making a simile, first of all, you choose a quality of the noun, like my skin is smooth. His skin is smooth, right? Now I'm going to think about what else, what is another thing which is smooth as well. So I go for a very different kind of noun, that is the surface of the sea. Surface of the sea is silky. I feel that that is something which is silky, that is smooth, right? So what I do is I compare his skin with the silky sea, the surface of the silky sea, or as smooth as a silky sea, right? Metaphor, beta, simile, remember, we are comparing two nouns using like or as. And similes, if you use, and you should use at least two similes in your whole narrative, right? And they should be created on your own. Metaphor, let's read the example. Metaphor is also a device. It's a literary device. It's a figurative device in which you compare two nouns with each other, but you're not using like or as. For example, I was lost in a sea of nameless faces. So actually, there are so many strangers in the hall wherever I'm sitting, and those strangers, because they are in large number, so I'm comparing them with a sea, right? And sea is actually, because sea is something, which has, a large quantity of water in it, right? So I'm comparing those faces with a sea of nameless faces because I want to give the feeling that there are so many of them, right? So beta, metaphors, they are used when you remove like or as, right? But another way of using metaphor is, for example, you use metaphorical verbs. Like if I say, that for example, the room was carpeted with the smell of dust, with a strong smell of dust. So I'm using the word carpeted here. So, carpeted is actually, carpet is something which covers everything, right? So, which covers the floor. Okay, so I'm using carpeted over here as a metaphor. I'm actually telling, I want to imply that there was a thick smell that lingered in the air, and I chose the word carpeted. So this is also, I call it a metaphorical verb. Metaphorical verbs, they sound really good when you're using them in your essays. I'll provide you a list, just give me a reminder. I'll provide you a list of metaphorical verbs. Personification is giving human qualities to any non-human thing. The trees danced gracefully in the tender sunshine. Dancing trees is a positive image. I think, Alina, I read your essay in which you used dancing, and I wrote over there that this is a negative, dancing is a positive image, and you were using it in negative, surroundings. Is that so? आपका ही था ना इससे जो मैंने read किया था?
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ, तो बेटा डांसिंग ट्रीज जो होता है ना, दिस इज अ पॉजिटिव इमेज. आपने एक अच्छे वेदर के साथ उसको यूज करना है, राइट? इफ देर इज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग विंड, हाउलिंग विंड है, देर इज अ स्टॉर्म मे बी ब्रूइंग अप, then do not use dancing trees. Maybe the trees are whipping around. Whipping is like they're throwing themselves here and there with force, right? So personification sounds really good. Only think about an object in your story, right? And give it a human quality that you think. For example, the door, the door stands still. The box which is lying on the table, I would use the word sitting on the table. The box was sitting on the table. Now, sitting is a simple personification that I've used, right? Similarly, anything like any object, for example, which I'm scared of, right? That object, I can use the word, it glared at me. The envelope glared at me. Now, that is an envelope that I do not want to open. So I would use personification. हाँ जी बेटा, एनी क्वेश्चन टिल नाउ? इज इट क्लियर? ये मैं आपको डिटेल में, मुझे पता है आप लोगों को आती होंगी ये डिवाइसेस, पर डिटेल में इसीलिए समझाती हूँ बिकॉज बच्चे इनको यूज नहीं करते. दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम. एंड इफ यू यूज देम, द मोर यू यूज देम, द मोर यू आर गोइंग टू improve योर एक्सप्रेशन. एक्सप्रेशन इज नॉट ओनली अबाउट यूजिंग गुड वोकेबलरी बेटा, कि आप कुछ वर्ड्स याद कर लेते हो, रट्टा मार लेते हो, और वो भी बिल्कुल एंड पे, जस्ट 2 days बिफोर द एग्जाम. ठीक है, अभी से ट्राई टू वर्क हार्ड. अभी से जब आप कोशिश करोगे एसेज में इन चीज़ों को डालने की ना, ठीक है, तो आपका हैबिट डेवलप हो जाएगा. एंड इन योर एग्जाम पेपर ऑल्सो naturally you will be looking for these devices so that you can improve your expression. Imagery क्या होता है? Imagery is, it's all about creating an image using sensory details. For example, descriptive, figurative. The candy melted in her mouth. बेटा कहीं भी आप अपनी स्टोरी में कुछ खा रहे हो बैठ के, anything, so आप उसके लिए यूज करो, कोई सेंस ऑफ टेस्ट यूज कर लो. Melted is like, it's appealing to sense of taste. Swirls of bittersweet chocolate, slightly sweet but salty caramel blended together on her tongue. So this is all creating a good image. The writer uses over here a sense of taste and touch, right? And this is how this whole sentence looks very alive, very attractive. Pathetic fallacy is like giving human emotions to things that are not human, like objects, animals or weather. आपने अपने emotions को show करना है, तो बेटा आप show करोगे weather के through. Like for example, if the clouds are crying, right? The clouds are crying, that means I'm sad. So I'm using these words, clouds, crying clouds. Why? Because I want to depict my sadness through the weather. If I'm walking on a lonely road, the road is never lonely. But I myself am feeling lonely right now. So I am using the object lonely. The road, actually, I'm using that object and I've given it the quality of being lonely, right? So this is a very good device, pathetic fallacy, in which weather actually shows, weather is actually, it depicts your feelings, right? और बेटा इसमें एक चीज आप याद रखो, pathetic fallacy, you actually, for example, if you are describing, if you are happy, the weather, there should be lots of sunshine. ठीक है, bright rays may be flooding, shafts of sunlight, they are flooding the room, right? And it should be it should be a sunny day, right? Whenever you're writing about dull, whenever you are sad, the weather should be gloomy. Maybe the clouds, for example, look at this example. Mud-colored clouds drooped sadly over the muddy streets as the criminal continued to elude them. Now, mud-colored clouds drooping sadly over the muddy streets. So they are drooping sadly. The clouds are, they are sad. So for sad weather, always use cloudy. If you're sad, always you can describe the weather as being sad. The clouds are drooping sadly, right? This is a way to describe that. Then we also have another, if you are angry, for example, you can use the rumbling, thundering clouds, such kind of imagery that also depicts the anger or something, that is something violent which is going on in the story. Okay, coming to any question till now, have you understood what simile, metaphor, personification, imagery, whatever we have discussed till now, beta? If there's a question, just open up your mic and ask me a question. Oxymoron. Oxymoron is actually, it's a kind of metaphor. Let's read the definition. Combining two words or phrases that are contradictory. Example, a hateful love, bitter sweets, minor crisis, deafening silence. The formula of how can you make an oxymoron. For oxymoron, first of all, number one is you think of an adjective, right? For example, let's take this example, deafening. Deafening is an adjective, right? Deafening means very loud, as if it is piercing the eardrums, right? Acha, after thinking of an adjective, just think about the second step is think about the opposite of this adjective. Now, the opposite of the adjective deafening, that is silent, quiet, right? So the opposite is quiet or silent. But quiet or silent, they are actually adjectives, they are not nouns. Now, the third step is you think of a noun actually, which is the opposite of the adjective you first, you first chose. For example, deafening, the opposite of deafening is quiet or silent. Silent is an adjective. What is the noun of silent? That is silence. So I use this is what makes an oxymoron. Okay, first of all, I'll write down the steps over here for making an oxymoron. Oxymorons, they work like metaphors and they sound very attractive in your writing. Remember that. For example, first of all, number one, you think of an adjective. I give my students a simple example of oxymoron to keep it in mind in case you forget the definition. First, think of an adjective. For example, big. Then think of the opposite of this adjective. What is the opposite of adjective? That is small, right? So I'm going to write down the adjective here. The adjective I chose was big. The opposite of this adjective is small. The third step is that I now think about a noun that matches the adjective number two. I'm writing number two here. So the opposite of the adjective small. What thing is small? Think about a noun which is small. For example, big ant. For example, ants are really small. Now what I do is I now combine the adjective and the noun. I combine 1 and 3 together. And that is actually big ant. So this is my oxymoron, beta. This is the way of making an oxymoron. You think about anything. Maybe, for example, you're sitting beside a table, a window, and you want to describe the window, right? So how will you describe a window? What kind of oxymoron can you make regarding a window? Ji beta, can anyone give me a suggestion? Ji?
Shiny.
Shiny, okay. And what is the opposite of shiny? Dull. What kind of thing is dull? What kind of noun is dull? क्या चीज हो सकती है dull, बेटा? The window was a shiny what? What can I say about it? हाँ जी बेटा, any idea? कुछ भी सोच लो. Think about things which are
Paper.
क्या हो सकती हैं dull, क्या चीजें हो सकती हैं जी बेटा?
Paper.
पेपर डल पेपर पेपर कैसे हो सकता है? शाइनी विंडो. अच्छा, एनीथिंग एल्स? और क्या एडजेक्टिव ले सकते हैं विंडो के लिए?
Transparent.
ट्रांसपेरेंट हो सकती है. और ट्रांसपेरेंट का ऑपोजिट क्या होगा? अच्छा, ट्रांसपेरेंट का ऑपोजिट हो सकता है समथिंग विच इज ओपेक, राइट? ओपेक क्या चीज हो सकती है? हाँ जी बेटा, व्हाट?
Bricks.
सॉरी.
Brick.
हाँ, ब्रिक हो सकती है. वॉल हो सकती है. ठीक है, वॉल्स भी तो ओपेक होती है ना. तो बिल्कुल ठीक हो गया, ट्रांसपेरेंट वॉल. ठीक है, ऐसे कह सकते हैं. ठीक है, द विंडो हम इस तरह कर सकते हैं कि आई स्टूड एज आई सैट बिसाइड द ट्रांसपेरेंट वॉल. अच्छा, अब मैं विंडो को वॉल क्यों कह रही हूँ? व्हाई इज दैट? मे बी आई वॉन्ट टू शो दैट दैट इज समथिंग. वॉल है मतलब आई वॉन्ट टू सिंबलाइज कि जो विंडो है ना, आई जस्ट कैन नॉट गेट आउट ऑफ द रूम. Maybe there are restrictions imposed on me. Maybe I'm locked inside. So the window is transparent, but it is a wall because I cannot go out. Maybe I'm in prison. I've been kidnapped and I've been placed in a room where there's a window, but the window is properly locked. I cannot just get out of it. So though it is transparent, but it is a transparent wall which does not let me get out of it. ठीक है बेटा, आप देखो कितना अच्छा हमारा कंपैरिजन बना, oxymoron bana, and it can also fit into the story in case we are writing about being kidnapped or being locked inside a room. समझ आया सबको? राफे, आपको समझ आ रहा है बेटा?
जी मैम.
ठीक है. अच्छा, मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट नाउ, जक्स्टापोजिशन। जक्स्टापोजिशन क्या होता है बेटा? टू कंट्रास्टिंग आइडियाज प्लेस टुगेदर। ये मैंने पहले भी एक्सप्लेन किया था, अब इसकी एग्जांपल पहले पढ़ लेते हैं। इट वाज द बेस्ट ऑफ टाइम्स, इट वाज द वर्स्ट ऑफ टाइम्स, चार्ल्स डिकन्स का नॉवल है, उसकी ये ओपनिंग है, इट्स वेरी पॉपुलर। ठीक है, अगर आप इसको गूगल करोगे ना, पूरा पैराग्राफ इसका निकल आएगा, और इस पूरे पैराग्राफ में देयर इज लॉट्स ऑफ कॉन्ट्रास्ट। ठीक है, हम ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, स्टार्टिंग कॉपी नहीं करेंगे बट आर ओन स्टार्टिंग। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इसकी मैंने, मेरा ख्याल है एग्जाम्पल एक दी थी कि juxtaposition मैंने बताया था when we were doing the structure devices, कि maybe you are sitting inside your room, there's a storm coming outside of, you can see the storm coming outside of the window, but inside there's a fireplace, you're sitting beside the crackling fire, maybe sipping a hot cup of coffee while gazing at the storm which is destroying or eating everything in its path. So what I'm doing is I'm placing two contrasting ideas in one sentence at one time. I'm describing the storm as well as I myself, I'm feeling so calm, maybe reading a book, taking coffee while there's a, extremely contrasting setting out of the window. ठीक है बेटा, तो दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल जक्स्टापोजिशन। ठीक है, और ये बड़ी अच्छी डिवाइस है। आप अगर यूज करते हो इन चीजों को तो बेटा एग्जामिनर को पता चलता है, उसको पता है कि आपने ये यूज किया है। ठीक है, जैसे द काम हीरो पास थ्रू अ chaotic street, the hero is calm and but the street is chaotic, there's, it's very noisy, so he's just walking, he's feeling so calm and peaceful, but maybe there's something happened in the street, everyone is running here and there, there's a proper chaos, and this is what we call juxtaposition. Alliteration is like occurrence of same sound at the beginning of the words. For example, fumbled over here. Fumbled is a word which starts with the sound f. Photo is a word which starts with the sound f. And then we have froze. Froze is a word that also starts with the sound f. So alliterations you can use as well because they also they add rhythm to your writing, right? But don't overdo. Alliteration is not very important in essays, but they are important in, directed writings, especially when you're writing articles, speeches, giving subheadings, right? Then they are more important. Hyperbole is exaggeration to create a dramatic effect. She gulped as she stared at the endless piles of bills. Endless piles. I walked on the endless road. Of course, the road cannot be endless. It might be ending somewhere. So I'm exaggerating. So this is what we call hyperbole. He was taking forever to get ready. Taking forever. Forever means like never ending. So again, this is exaggeration. I died when I saw my result card. So I died is like exaggerating. I had a heart attack the moment I saw him coming into the classroom. So I had a heart attack. You did not literally have a heart attack, but actually you are exaggerating. This is what you felt. Okay, coming to emotive language. Emotive language, a language that creates strong emotional response. I thought about, taking out some examples of emotive language because I think this is something which is difficult to create. I'll send you emotive language exemplars as well as भी मैंने कौन सा कहा था, किसके examples बोला था? I'll send, मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा, इमेजरी और ऑक्सीमोरॉन किसकी एग्जांपल्स बोला था कि मैं आपको सेंड करती हूँ?
मैम मेटाफोरिक वर्ब्स।
हाँ हाँ, मेटाफोरिकल वर्ब्स। हाँ बेटा, ये मुझे एक रिमाइंडर दीजिएगा, ठीक है? अच्छा, सेकेंडली आई वाज थिंकिंग अबाउट टेकिंग योर टेस्ट्स एज वेल। ठीक है, आप लोग वीक का एक दिन जो है ना बेटा, वीक डेज में से कोई एक दिन एलोकेट कर लो, ठीक है, इन विच आई सेंड यू अ टेस्ट दैट यू हैव टू कंप्लीट। मैं अपलोड कर दूंगी, ठीक है, गूगल क्लासरूम में कर दूंगी, आइदर ऑन व्हाट्सएप। ठीक है, आप उसको अटेम्प्ट करो पूरा टाइम रख के, और फिर आप मुझे वो अगले दिन या उसी टाइम आप मुझे विद इन 1 आवर, 1 आवर होना चाहिए आपके पास पूरा। अब आप लोग देख लो कि आइदर यू वांट टू डू इट ऑन अ वीकेंड और यू वांट टू डू इट इन वीकडेज। ठीक है, तो मुझे आप एक दिन बता दो कि उस दिन एलोकेट हम कर लेंगे कि वो टेस्ट होगा, अनसीन होगा। आई वुड गाइड यू, ठीक है, ऑन दैट क्वेश्चन विच आई गिव यू। चाहे वो कॉम्प्रीहेंशन होती है, विल स्टार्ट विद कॉम्प्रीहेंशन। ठीक है, हम कॉम्प्रीहेंशन से शुरू करते हैं, उसके बाद समरी राइटिंग, उसके बाद एसे राइटिंग, इस तरह से करते जाएंगे। तो थोड़ा सा ना आप लोग खुद से भी, एक तो आपको अपना इवेल्युएट करोगे आप लोग, वेयर डू यू स्टैंड। ठीक है, और ये कि विदाउट गाइडेंस आप लोग ये कर सकते हो कि नहीं। ठीक है, अच्छा बेटा, next we move to example. Let's read the example of emotive language. Plastic waste murders millions of helpless turtles every year. Murders is actually, this is a word, whenever, we think about this word murder, we feel pitiful. We feel full of pity for someone who has been killed, right? So murder is a word which is an emotive language word. It is creating emotion in the reader. Onomatopoeia is the words that imitate sound. Sound words, they are actually, that is called onomatopoeia. The earthquake rumbled across the valley. Now, rumbling, clacking, these are all sound words. Beta, I've given these sound words a list of sound words, smell words, taste words. They are all given in my vocabulary booklet, right? So if you want to learn the words, you can take help from there, because that, and you should memorize words. They should be in your mind whenever you are describing sounds, because do not go for, self-invented sounds like the phone rang, tring, tring. This is what the students do, right? Don't do that. That is something that spoils your writing. Okay, we come to the next rule of three. We also call it tripling. Tripling is, yeah, when you're using three adjectives or phrases. Basically, rule of three means using three words which are thematically connected with each other. That is the definition. For example, I came, I saw, I conquered. Now, came, saw, conquered, these three words are related to the field of, the family of verbs. These are all verbs, right? So I'm using three verbs in one sentence. So that is what I call rule of three. The table was rectangular, smooth, and made of mahogany. Mahogany is a kind of wood. So I've added three descriptions, right, to describe the table. They are all descriptive words. This made of mahogany, it's not an adjective, but it's an adjective phrase, because it is describing the table, right? So that is what we call rule of three. Coming to semantic field. Semantic field is actually what we also call it lexical field. Semantic field are actually the words which are related to one theme. For example, death, if you are describing, anything like, let's say, you are describing a war scene, you are going to use these kinds of words: the graves, the bones, decaying, the fetid kind of smell. Fetid is like stale smell, as if the smell of decomposing, right? Semantic fields, they also work really well. For example, you're sitting in a garden and you're describing the setting of the garden in the first paragraph. So I would describe the lush green trees which are swaying or dancing in the wind. I would describe the blooming flowers. I would describe the, grass which is as smooth. I can use the simile we used above, smooth like a silky sea, as I walk on it, right? So this kind of imagery, whatever I've used, I've described the grass, the flowers, the trees, maybe the fruits, the blooming flowers, the caterpillars, the butterflies which are hovering over the flowers, trying to, extract nectar out of them. So beta, this is what we call semantic field. It's a device the writer very well, the examiner knows that you're using words related to one theme. So he's going to consider it a sophisticated kind of device, right? Rhetorical questions are very important. Rhetorical questions are the questions which require no answer. Rhetorical questions are used not only in essay writing, but also in directed writing. Who knows what might have happened to the little boy? Don't you think we should do something in essay writing, in narratives, rhetorical questions? They should come up like thoughts in your mind. For example, is that really true? Should I believe him? Should I take up this task or should I abandon it? So these are the questions which were nagging my mind. So this is how I can use this device very easily in my narrative essay. Coming to symbolism. Symbolism is when you are writing, when you use an object to represent deeper meaning. Symbolism is something that we can use in, foreshadowing, foreboding also. For example, Harry Potter's scar is a symbol of his bravery. Maybe you want to symbolize anything which is going to come up later. You can use it in foreshadow. For example, I gave you an example of a broken glass. The broken glass is actually, symbolizing that something is not going to turn up good later on in the story. Maybe you're going to, start up a new business venture and that doesn't turn out to be good and you face a lot of loss in that, right? So that is, I symbolized this, by using, by actually, the broken glass was actually a symbol of ill fortune that was going to come up next. So it is also a foreshadowing that I've used. Repetition, use repetition in your writings, not repeating the words, without purpose. For example, students, they use the word again and again. I saw this, I saw that, and then you are using then as well. Then. Don't use that. Use repeat words because you have a purpose. For example, she tried and tried and tried until she achieved the required result. So beta, tried and tried and tried. This is what she's repeating. Why? Because the writer wants to stress on the fact that how much she struggled. She struggled a lot, right? She tried a lot. She put in lots of effort. That is why we are using this word tried. We are repeating it, right? So these are some of the language devices, right, which I want you people to use in your writing. And let me show you the mark scheme as well, the content structure as well as the style accuracy. This is how you are marked. When I mark essays, I always write CS is equal to. CS is actually, I'm, giving you marks in this, I'm placing you in this, criteria. So content structure is 9 to 10 marks. Actually, these are the highest marks band, level 5. When you are using a wide range of descriptive or narrative features to create a consistently effective response. Structure is clear, well balanced, and organized for deliberate effect. Now, beta, just look at what is the writer assessing in your story, in your essay writing. He assesses range of features. We discussed all the features. We discussed climax, setting, exposition, the characters, all the structural devices that we used. Now, they are important because they are being checked in this part. The structure As I said, that structure is important, how you are organizing your narrative, how you are beginning it, ending it. It should be clear, it should be well balanced. Well balanced means do not overdo anything. Sometimes I've seen students that they start their story with the description of the setting, and the whole paragraph they go on describing the weather, and that's it. So that is, you are overdoing this thing. You have, included a lot of weather description, which is not really needed, right? So when you're describing a character, sometimes I see students, they devote one whole paragraph to the description of character. So beta, that is where you are losing the balance of the narrative. Don't do that. Make it balanced and carefully organizes for deliberate effect. That means the effect that you're trying to create, the how you want to focus on the essay, the topic. So make it focused on the topic. Do not go off the track, right? Then the next thing that is being assessed is, after content and structure, we come to style and accuracy. Now, style and accuracy, see what is being assessed over here. I mark it as SA is equal to out of 15. Okay, beta. So this is level 5, 13 to 15 marks. You use a wide range of well-constructed sentences, accurately including complex sentences. So look at it. Sentence structure, well-constructed. How important is sentence structure? Specifically complex sentences. We'll also, after we are done with the planning of the essay, we'll be doing sentence structure, how to vary different types of sentences. Then effective use, precise and effective use of a wide range of vocabulary, the way you use your vocab, highly accurate use of complex spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Now look at it, your sentence structures, your vocabulary, and the spelling, punctuation, grammar that you use. बेटा ये सब included है. Style accuracy में check होगा और आपकी language इसमें check होती है. The language devices, they play the same role as vocabulary plays in your writing. जो आप wide range of vocabulary है, that also covers the language devices. ठीक है? In the workshop, Cambridge workshop that I attended, they showed us an essay that was an A grade essay that was written by Cambridge examiner themselves, and that essay had a very, these kind of similes, metaphors included in that. And the examiner, she told us that time that because of these devices the writer has used, the essay is placed in the highest band, the highest level. So remember, they are very important because they play the same role as your the use of wide vocabulary, as well as spelling. That means if you're using difficult words, the spelling should be correct. Do not use words which you are not sure of, right? You should know the meaning, you should know the usage. Punctuation, that is important, using colon, semicolon. As I said, we'll have a class on that as well, how to use the different, the sophisticated types of punctuation. And then grammar, of course, that is important. The use of tenses, the use of subject verb agreement. Sometimes students, they make mistakes in use of tenses. So we should abstain from doing that. So this is how we are